Hello again, class, and welcome back to part two of the chapter 25 SUPA lecture. Um, in this lecture, we're going to start with slide 6, and we're going to go through slides 6 through 10, picking up where you left off yesterday. Slide 6 jumps into what is considered the arsenal of democracy. That's your title slide there. So basically, when we enter World War II, the Great Depression ends. Um, the American war machine is back. People are working. It's massive job creation. This is also the beginning of massive American debt. U.S. spending goes through the roof, and I think we know how that's only continued here into the 21st century. And really, what the United States was able to do, because of the fact that we were isolated, we had a huge industrial base, so many natural resources. We were free from really being directly involved in the war, being in the Americas. We had so many people, large civilian population, was that we were able to, outproduce our enemies. And that really, allowed the U.S. to be successful in World War II. I always tend to argue when you talk about American history, the role of geography, and really the rise of the United States as a world power. You can't ignore geography and our position in the Americas. Moving on to slide 7, which gets into new workers and rationing. All right, so the United States would bring workers in, bring in workers from Central America, from Mexico, to work on American farms, because obviously food was necessary. You also saw other changes in the workforce with women and African Americans. There was increased job opportunity. And the percentage of women and African Americans in the workforce would increase drastically during World War II. But there were some other things that weren't so positive. First off, rationing. If you wanted to buy goods, you needed a ration stamp. You couldn't go in and hoard. It's kind of like now. I mean, during this school closure due to the coronavirus, you've seen stores basically institute, you can only buy so many rolls of toilet paper, you can only buy so many rolls of paper towels, because people were hoarding those items, when the New York on pause order initially happened. Now, the rationing which occurred during World War II was ordered at the hands of the government, and your family received a ration book depending on how many people lived there, and that determined if you could buy things if you had a ration stamp. Once you ran out of ration stamps, you could no longer buy stuff. People are obviously separated from one another due to having people overseas fighting. There were very long work days, and you had racial and ethnic hostility. When African Americans entered the workforce, they weren't warmly welcomed all the time by white America. Ignorance was something which obviously is and was around. So those were some of the negatives. Moving on to slide 8, which is Japanese internment. So after Japan bombed Pearl Harbor, Americans of Japanese ancestry and Japanese resident aliens essentially became targets. They were singled out, and they were essentially sent to internment camps in the middle of the desert. Even though the majority of them were U.S. citizens, they did nothing wrong. The justification was, well, they could be spies. The problem with that is we were also at war with Germany and Italy, and people of German ancestry or American citizens of German ancestry or Italian ancestry could be spies as well. They weren't put into internment camps. It was just, Americans of Japanese ancestry. Fred Korematsu would challenge the constitutionality of internment camps. That's where these, nice terms are essentially like little prison camps in the middle of the desert. And he would lose. The Supreme Court in Korematsu versus the United States in 1944 basically declared internment as constitutional, and they said that it was okay for the United States to declare an entire race as a national security threat. People lost everything. They had to sell their homes, they had to leave their belongings, they had to leave their lives, and they had to go to internment camps for what? There was no due process of law. They were never found guilty of doing anything. And to make matters worse, not one person in an internment camp was ever convicted of espionage against the United States on behalf of Japan. Moving on to slide 9, which gets into Yalta. Here, your world leaders basically come together and they're realizing as, World War II is winding down, we need to have a plan in place. And the Atlantic Charter kind of, just comes up with some real noble objectives, for the world, after World War II. What's the world going to look like, when this thing is all wrapped up. And these are some things, you'll explore not only in the reading, but, in some of the work that I give you this week. I want to move on finally to slide number 10 and talk about the Manhattan Project. The Manhattan Project was the project used to develop the atomic bomb. We thought we were originally going to have to use it in Europe, but we had to use it against the Japanese. The first bomb was dropped on Hiroshima, and the second bomb was dropped on Nagasaki. Now, it's the most deadly weapon ever used in the history of warfare. We dropped these bombs, tens of thousands of people dead. We warned the Japanese. The Japanese were told to surrender. They didn't. Leaflets were dropped on the Japanese people telling them to evacuate cities. We also, it's not like we targeted Tokyo. The United States could have targeted their capital and really sent them back to the Stone Age. But there's different ways to look at it. Was it immoral? Was it a military necessity? The justification given by Truman, because FDR had died at this point, was that we needed to shorten the war and save U.S. lives. If we continue to island hop and do a ground war and essentially Call of Duty it, the war could go on and on and on, and just the cost of money and lives. We warned them. They didn't surrender. They didn't even surrender after the first bomb. We dropped the second one. Henceforth, the argument was it was a necessity. Or the other way to look at it, was it post-war diplomacy? Were we showing off, to the rest of the world, for the power that we were going to have as we moved through the rest of the 20th century? Three different arguments one could use for use of the bomb. I hope this finds you guys all doing well. And I'm going to say it again, really miss you guys. I was really hoping we'd be back in school by this point, but unfortunately we're not. Take care of yourselves and your loved ones, and I hope to see you sooner than later. If you have any questions, email me.